Okay. So another thing I wanted to really address with you guys is handling some of these eyes, and what, as usual, you guys should always go do is go find some reference for some eyes, right? My eyes are going to be very painterly, so I found some, realistic eyes, but I'm going to use that as my starting reference. Here is what my reference looks like, just so you guys know. This is where I'm starting. This is what I'm looking at to kind of give me a gauge of what the elements I need because, as I say all the time, I can know what eyes look like without knowing what eyes look like. So it's always good to have reference up for yourself so that you're working from, um, you know, good reference. So the first thing I did was, you know, I went in and I'm going to add a reflective, more of a reflective kind of shader to this. So I'm going to go into my material. I'm going to paint this material onto this eyeball for now. All right. So we're just going to paint this onto the eyeball like so. All right. So now that we've painted it onto the eyeball, I can go back to my skin shader. All right. So I can see what's really going on. What's really going on. All right. So let's go to my skin shader, and now I still have this kind of reflective material for the eyeball. All right. So now I'm going to start painting with RGB instead of material. All right. So now let's see if it's all right. So if I painted red, you would see that it went to red. If I painted black, you would see that his eyes go to black. All right. So make sure that I have this kind of white painted, and this might not even work just because of how gray they are. I like the reflectivity, but they just might be a little too gray for what we're trying to do. So let me see if I can find something that's like more pure white. I'm liking some of these shaders that I got going here. Let's see. I'm probably just gonna use this basic skin shader for it. All right. I'm gonna use this basic skin shader. Make sure that my color, right, is set to white here. All right. I'm just gonna paint this over this. Whoops. Over my eyeball here. All right. So instead of RGB, I'm gonna paint material now. All right. I like this a lot better. All right. So we're gonna paint this. It's got a little bit of reflectivity, but not too much reflectivity. So that's good for what we're trying to do here. All right. So the next thing I'm going to do is uh, now I'm going to paint in um, the iris and the pupil. All right. So for that, I'm going to choose a color. Maybe let's choose like a blue color for the eyes. All right. I'm going to reduce the size of my brush here. And then I'm just gonna start painting. Actually, it's painting with the material, so we're gonna want to switch that back over to RGB. All right. So this blue is kind of a little intense right there, so I'm just gonna, all right, start like so. All right. Then maybe layer with another blue color, right? And what I'm doing is I'm adding a bunch of different kind of blues right now, just so that the eye just gets a little more of a. It's not just one color; it's a little more complex. And what I might want to do also is go to my geometry. I'm gonna divide this once or twice. All right, just so it's a lot smoother. And then, all right, here we go. All right, and I'm just still painting with RGB. And right now, what I'm doing is I'm holding down Shift, and that's uh, smoothing that out right there for me. So now I've got that. Maybe go into like maybe a greener color. And what I want to do is I can do like an alpha now, right? I can do an alpha here. Whoops. And I can maybe even drag select. Let's see, drag select. can spray it on. Oops, too much. Reduce it, and the intensity is kind of high right now, so we can either there we go. Let's not do a drag select. I think that what was wrong was my intensity was high. My intensity is still high. Maybe a 1, still high. Okay, maybe we just paint it. Drag snap. Done. Texture. Is there a texture I can maybe use? No. I'm trying to get something cool on the eyes, you know, something maybe like a cool pattern or a cool shape or something to kind of get blended in with the eye a little bit. So maybe let's try. Maybe what's going on is my brush is a little too rough. Here we go. Let's do RGB in alpha. Here we go. It's a little cooler. That's cool. All right. So maybe let's try that other alpha. Ooh. All right. Well, we're starting to cook with a little bit of. All right. So I'm going to use my drag select. What was happening was that the brush I was using. So I just changed to the clay tubes brush, and then I attached my alpha to that. So I might mess with a different alpha, maybe even the alpha that I had to begin with, because I like this kind of stargazy. Yeah, you guys see that? I like that kind of almost stargazy eye feel that you get when you look into this thing. That looks cool. All right, so that's probably supposed to be black, but there is some nebula-ish kind of stuff that's supposed to be around the eye that I want to kind of add to it. So maybe, ooh, I'll use that for like the veins or something. All right. And as you guys can see, like, I didn't go into this with any preconceived kind of ideas. I'm kind of just winging it and trying to free flow with ZBrush right now, you know, just to try to see what I can get out of it, you know. All right, maybe then go back to our freehand. Maybe then, oops. Then maybe a darker color. There we go. All right, and then in here, you can then even throw maybe another white for the inside whites of the eyes or something. And then maybe just another smaller one to act like a fake little reflection, right? And then maybe, oops, this was too big. Just another one to act like, you know how you be having them side reflections on the eye, the anime reflections? Right? That's what you're trying to mimic right there. All right. So now our character has eyes, eyeballs, sockets, or whatever for now. All right. So with our character's eyes, we can then maybe even do a Z sub here. All right. And what that does is then it pushes that in a little bit, or we can control Z here a little bit. Whoops. Let's do a Z add. I'm gonna do maybe a Z add here. Let's mimic a little bit of the eye. All right, so now we've got kind of an eye going here. The next thing I want to do is I want to kind of add, let's start painting a little more a little more reds in there. So, whoops, right here. And we're going to do RGB, no Z add. All right. All right, it's the clay tubes. Let's do clay tubes and then maybe one of these guys. And then in RGB, no mRGB, just RGB. And then let's reduce the size of our brush. Right now it's coming out kind of like that. So let's maybe do a spray. Spray is, that's weird too. Let's just try the clay brush again. And this time I will use maybe this. All right, and then let's turn off this alpha. Intensities down, freehands down. All right. So what I'm doing is I'm painting, and then if I hold down shift, it smooths it out. All right, I'm gonna do the same thing right here. Shift. All right. Let's go back to this white a little bit more. Go back to this white. All right. Just like that, knocking it back. All right. And then do the same over here. Reduce the size of my brush. All right, just reducing that size a little bit, knocking it back. All right. All right. So now, if I wanted to get maybe some more veins, some vascular looking stuff, okay, drag select this stuff out. Okay, I think it's the clay buildup or the clay tubes that does a better version of this. I think it's this guy. And I just RGB. Let's do drag. And it's only dragging out like a square, so it's not buildup. Okay, so now I just have the RGB on. Alright. There you guys go. You guys see what's going on? Now I'm dragging that RGB. So now it looks like he's got some kind of cool veins kind of coming out the side of his eyes here. Alright. And you can do a couple. I'm just probably gonna do it like right here. All right, so it's kind of like you're layering all of this stuff on top of each other and trying to get the best possible outcome. So, and I'm gonna do the same. And another thing, if I want to isolate this, right, it's easy to do that. If you guys don't know how to isolate any object that you're working on, if you come right here, if you hit solo, it's gonna solo for you, right? So now what I can do is then I can then kind of drag these guys to kind of cover that. And nobody's going to see the stuff in the back, so who cares? Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Remember that. Nobody. If I can't see it, I'm not going to work on it, right? So I'm just going to kind of use this to make the eye a little realistic from the inside. Because that's kind of how the eye works. Alright, because there's like this little pink There's this little pink band that kind of goes around the eye. All right, kind of goes like this around the eye, all the way around, kind of like that. And then these the little blood vessels go around them. So now we can take off our solo, and we can see how that affects our model. All right, so now we can go in here. I'm going to go BMV for move. Select my model here a little bit. I actually even want to, might still want to kind of bring these in a little more. Right. Right. Pushing, pulling, you're moving stuff around the whole time, guys. All right. So I'm still adjusting proportions here, just making sure things feel, look right, act right, the whole nine. Some people say, they never feel like any of their models is really very finished because there's always something they can do on it. There's always something you can fix. There's always something you can do, but you just have to kind of get it to a certain point and then um, let it do its thing. All right. So now I've got, some kind of stargazing looking eye kind of deal going. They're not the best looking eyes. They're very quick. If I had, if I was doing it with more time, I would take more love and care and, put it into it, like, study it a lot more. But for this quick render, this should suffice. All right. So now we've got eyes whenever we render. All right, that's what I wanted to address. Just wanted to give you guys quickly how to do that right quick because I know I hadn't done that right. And another thing I would probably do is I would go back into my fiber mesh here, right? Maybe my overall, just because it's no longer following the arch of the face, right? It's no longer following, and I would probably go ahead and recreate it, right? Maybe redraw the line again, just so we're getting something new and more. But other than that, yeah, see, like the faces move so much, the lashes don't even line up anymore. So I can go ahead and delete that, right? All right, I can go ahead and delete that, and yeah, it's cool. Cool for now. I mean, another thing you guys can do is, go in and flesh out the lips. So, like, you could go in here, right? I've got maybe 5 or 10 more minutes for this one. Just go in here. Whoops, not purse the lips. We'll do B. Let's do, I think it was is it the clay tubes that was good? No, it's not the clay tubes. It's the clay buildup, right? I think it's the clay buildup. Okay, I should be painting RGB, that intensity. No, it wasn't. Was it just the clay? I think it was just the clay. There we go. All right. So yeah, I would, go ahead and with the lips, kind of flesh it out a little more, right? I would pull up the reference of lips, right? And just use maybe one of these brushes here to start kind of giving me some more and then smooth it out. All right. This is probably still too light. I probably need to go a little darker. All right. You want to get close to this skin color without making it look far too off. All right. All right. I'm just gonna shift, right? When I hold down shift, it smooths out that that paint that I just laid down. All right, so I'm just blending. It's like a blending tool. So I'm just kind of using that to kind of blend that together. All right, and I messed up because I've been whenever I hit the smooth, it's doing shift add and smooth. Okay. Yeah, it's smoothing out the geo as well, and I don't want that to happen, right? So whenever I hit shift, it had on Z add. I want to turn that off, and I just want to be able to smooth the paint that I'm laying down here. So, all right, okay. So now if I hit shift, I'm keeping the detail that's underneath without compromising any of this new paint information that I'm laying down on my model. All right. So that's how you would go about that. So like, I would go through and kind of just paint them up, paint them up, paint them up, paint them up, paint up the lips, kind of deal. Shift, right? Remember shift. That's how we smooth things. All right. And make sure you're getting good coverage on the lips. Want it to look natural. The transition from the paints to look natural. All right. Because eventually, what you're going to want to go back and do is with like a clay build up brush or something, you're going to want to maybe a little Z add, reduce the intensity. You're going to want to build it back up a little bit, but not too much. All right. You're going to want to build it back, but not too much. All right. And as you guys can see, I'm also laying down paint while I'm adding to my sculpt. So if I didn't want to do that, I could turn off RGB and all I'm doing is sculpting, right? But whenever I'm smoothing though, it's only smoothing that paint still because, well, whenever I turned it on, I only turned on RGB for my smoothing. Remember, if you wanted to smooth the geometry as well, you've got to turn on your Z add or Z sub. All right, so don't forget that. That's my last little tip, my little tidbit for you. All right, I'm just gonna maybe dip this in a little more. All right, and what I'm doing is giving my newly laid down paint something to latch onto, so they don't look like they're all out of place and stuff like that. All right. Oh God, that looks crazy. All right, I wasn't paying attention to the color, but you guys see. You guys want a kiss from this guy. All right, so maybe I would take knock this back a little bit. Maybe make him something a little more blue because he's a little more bluish. All right, so maybe we get something a little more blue, darkish like that, and then in RGB, no add. All right, and this is clay. Let's do the clay tubes. Let's do. Wow, that's intense. Clay buildup. Okay, RGB. B S T B S. Okay. BST should be the standard brush. Alright, now let's just use RGB. Let's turn off this alpha. Alright, this is material. Let's do RGB. Alright, now whenever I paint, it's painting something a little more soft down. Alright, so now I'm just, alright, so I've still got some of that pink, but it's not as like, it's not as crazy as it was. You guys can see it's not as bad, right? When you knock it back with a little purple, right? Because you got to remember that our skin has a lot of layers on it. And what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to add maybe a little more noise to break it up so it looks a little more natural. All right, so let's do a little bit of noise. This noise is usually good to kind of add. Let's do drag select as well. Then maybe increase the intensity so you guys can see what's going on. All right. Just gonna paint up this area a little bit more. All right. All right, now maybe grab something a little lighter. Maybe white, pinkish, a little something like that. All right. And all of this painting that I'm doing it with my mouse, right? So I'm not really using my Wacom right now. I could, but you know, it's possible to use your, all right? All right. So maybe I'll do drag select again and maybe throw something to break up all that, all of what's going on there. So I might just go like this, maybe find something a little warmer. Let's see if that helps with some of the breakup. There we go. It's kind of blending. It's doing a good job of kind of blending. Maybe let's get some of this purple stuff. Actually, ooh, let's bring some of his texture back a little bit. All right, and this kind of helps bring it in, right? And as you guys can see, man, it's like I tell you guys, keep telling y'all, it's about subtlety. Subtlety. All right, I'm gonna throw on Z add, maybe throw on a little bit of noise, a little noise action here. All right, that's too noisy. All right, so my Z intensity is too high. I'm gonna make it down to maybe 2. Maybe let's go 3 or 4. See if we can. Yeah, there we go. So I'm just trying to add maybe a little more micro detail here, right? A little more micro detail to the lips here. That's all I'm doing. All right. There we go. All right. There we go. So I'm just going to give us a little bit of breakup here. All right. So now I'm going to go back to my shift smooth again, Z add. All right. Whoops. You want areas of noise, areas of kind of smoothness, right? Everything isn't going to be 100% rough and everything isn't going to be 100% smooth, right? So I'm picking my spots. And what that's doing is it's giving it more of a realistic feel to it. All right? All right. Here we go. And just like that, let us fire off a BPR render. Alright. My light box settings. I dig this. This is super cool. I think I'm gonna use this one. I like that a lot. All right, so you can get some very cool vibes going with your bust over here. So fire off a render, save it out for us, and let us know what they look like in the end. These are interesting. I'm gonna save this one. I don't know if it's my favorite one, but I definitely like what it's doing. Dude, what happens if I combine this with like a sketchy type material already? I think that'll enhance it just a little bit more, or make it look like absolute garbage. All right, so I've got this kind of sketchy, cool looking material on already. Now let's see. It just kind of takes it off. Actually, it's still got it on it. It looks like there's a little more detail underneath. All right. Very interesting. Trying to see which one I'm going to save out and render for my to post in my thread. Ooh, interesting. It's like stippling and very interesting. There's a lot of interesting ones. I've never seen that one before. And some of these you might just have to like combine with each other to get the look that you're looking for. Ooh, there we go. I like the menacing look. I think I'm finding the one I like. I think one of these black and white anime ones. That looks gnarly. I don't even. God, no. That looks way too gnarly. Very intense. Pencil on paper. Wow, it does kind of look like pencil on paper. All right, and at this point, yeah, you guys can, you know, this is where you're supposed to be experimenting yourself as well. So, um, yeah, unless you want to see me just kind of click through these and show you what they look like, you guys go do your thing, finish your work, succeed, excel. be awesome. Ooh, line art. Interesting. I think I might go for this comic book style. Ooh, what's this heavy strokes? Hmm. Interesting. Oh wow. The shadow one's interesting. Cool. Very cool. Wow. Okay. Interesting. I kind of like this one. It's very light and it adds just like these little lines at the bottom. Kind of like a sketch. Very interesting. All right. Well, that's pretty much all of them. I mean, let me see. What's this oil Pablo Munoz type painting? Oh, artistic. Yeah, that's pretty much it. All right. Let me know what you guys think. If you guys have any questions, as usual, let me know. All right. Ooh, I found it ghostly.